Sunday. I just have to shout and I'll be fine. That's what I love about coming here. You always get a job to do. Bell ringing wasn't really on my list. Hey ho. It's the first week in Advent. Don't get excited or anything. It's following on from Black Friday, which has been extended into Black Saturday, I presume, Black Sunday and Black Monday. I remember when I was a small child, the excitement that was generated because of Christmas. You'd be at school, it'd be 2 weeks to go, and it seemed like it was forever until the term finished, and then you could get on with the holidays and get to that great day of Christmas, and looking forward to the gifts and the partying and the food and stuff like that. And these days, doesn't seem to be that exciting for older people like me. Recently retired and all that sort of thing. All too quickly we get caught up in the razzmatazz of buying stuff. Like this weekend has all been about, I think there's £1.27 billion sold online and in shops because of Christmas. And that's what it's become what it's about. It's about getting stuff and giving stuff. And there's very little reference to what it's actually all about. But this is the season of Advent. And what that means is, it's derived from a Latin word which translates a Greek word. You get all confused already. And the Greek word is parousia, which you might have heard of. And all that means is appearing or arrival. And it's traditional in Advent not only to look to Jesus coming as a baby at Christmas, which is what we celebrate Christmas for, the incarnation, God becoming a man, but we look forward to the time when he will come back. And that's what we're going to look at this morning. Our passage today is from Matthew chapter 24, verses 36 to 51. So if you've got a Bible, we'll read that together. Well, I'll read it and you can listen. That'll be better. So Matthew chapter 24, verses 36 to 51. But about that day or hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with hand mill, one will be taken and the other left. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Who then is the faithful and wise servant, whom the master has put in charge of the servants in his household, to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose that servant is wicked and says to himself, my master is staying away a long time, and he then begins to beat his fellow servants and to eat and drink with drunkards. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And God will add a blessing to the public reading of his word. Now, when you read a passage like that, what you've got to understand is the context that it's in. Right? It's very easy to read into things, and we all do it. We hear what we want to hear, and we'll come into that later. But this passage is framed at 3 levels. The first of is the coming of the Son of Man. Now we automatically think of the coming of the Son of Man as coming on the clouds of heaven as Jesus returns to take his people to heaven. Right? Wrong. What this is a reference to in the context of the passage is not the second coming of Jesus, but Jesus' arrival in heaven following his resurrection, his vindication as the Son of God. Because he was raised by the dead by God, he is vindicated as his Son and the Messiah. And so he comes in that respect to be vindicated in heaven. The second level that we're talking here about, if you read the previous bit of the chapter, is the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. The temple and the cult that surrounded the temple in Jerusalem, where the ark was in the temple itself, indicating the presence of God with his people, that was to be destroyed and taken away because it was no longer valid. And that happened in 70 AD. If we still work with that, we were AD and BC, or is it something else?
AC.
Probably something else. AD 70, the Romans invaded Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, and that in the context of this passage is part of what the coming of the Son of Man means, because he was vindicated by prophesying that and it came to pass. Okay? And the third part of the context of this, on the back of these two things, is that the good news will be spread throughout the world and Jesus will be announced as Lord. And for Christians, the season of Advent anticipates the coming of Christ from two different perspectives. It offers the opportunity to share the ancient longing of the Jewish people for the coming of the Messiah, and looking forward again to the fulfillment of that in the age to come. So we read in Isaiah, "You who bring good tidings to Zion, go up on a high mountain. You who bring good tidings to Jerusalem, lift up your voice with a shout. Lift it up and do not be afraid. Say to the towns of Judah, here is your God." And in Luke chapter 2, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Saviour has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord." So what we want to do today is, yes, we want to celebrate Christmas. I like Christmas. I don't necessarily like all the stuff that surrounds it, but I enjoy the season. And now that I've got grandwains, a young man like me, I'm like that. Don't laugh, I've got feelings, you know. It becomes all the more exciting. But yes, we want to celebrate Christmas, but we want to look forward to a time when God will come back to this earth, to his people, and transform the whole thing. What happened to Jesus in the resurrection will happen to us all, and it will happen to the whole cosmos. The whole world and the whole universe will be transformed. They get excited. This is as Paul says in Corinthians, the church, that's us. We are the people on whom the fulfillment of the ages has come. We are the people. Good Rangers song. We are the people. So, the first thing that the passage mentions is about is the days of Noah. Go to the next slide. Handy having that up there, you know. Good. So it goes back to the time of Noah and the building of the ark. And life was going on as normal for these people. They were eating, they were drinking, they were getting married, they were going to work, they were coming home and all that sort of thing. But in the midst of all that, there's this odd bloke up the road who's building a boat miles away from the sea. Did anyone ask him what he was doing? Did they ridicule him? Did they make a mockery of him? And today, people are going about their daily business and they're preparing for Christmas, whatever that means to them. The majority have no idea of the nativity or the incarnation, if these words mean anything to you. See, the problem with church is we've got a language that we use, and some of the songs we sung this morning about swinging and singing and stuff like that. Anybody have any idea what that is? No, neither do I. And we've got to watch that as we seek to communicate that. But the nativity, you know, the actual scene of Jesus being born, God, the God who made the universe becoming a child. And if you think about that, they blow your doors off. But people have no idea. Is there even a God for most people? Probably not. And why would he be interested in me? as other questions that people ask. Christianity, the religion that we follow, is being systematically pushed out of our schools and our world, basically. The media, and which has come to the fore in our days. When I was these guys' age, there was no such thing as an iPad or even a mobile phone. You had the telly, but there wasn't really very much on it. Whereas nowadays you've got access to information from all over the world, all around the place. And not only that, but you've got access to people's opinions. And there are lots of them. And so you can pick and choose what you want to hear. And that's a problem. Because the vast body of visual information that we're all plugged into, if you look at teenagers, and to a certain extent people like me, they're always plugged into one of them. They're looking at a screen. They're either communicating with other people, or they're plugged into the news, or the Facebook, or social media. And there's a lot of opinion and influence that comes through that, which presents a skewed picture of the gospel. Because the foundation of European civilization, and Sam's not here, which is a shame because he would back me up on that. The whole foundation that our society has been built on, and our culture, for hundreds of years, is being chopped and thrown out and disappearing. And so there becomes no reference point for anybody. And what that bit gets replaced by is a subjective mush based on feelings, how I feel, and my personal preference. And there's nothing to gauge that against. So basically we can do what we like, because I or myself comes to the fore. And that is the world that we live in. And yet, within that context, there are these odd people, and I'm referring to you guys and me, who are living in the light of the two questions that Noah answered. And these are, what is God saying to me? And what am I going to do about it? What is God saying to me? And when I say that, I don't mean what is God saying to the guy that's sitting next to me. What is God saying to me? What is God saying to you? And what are you going to do about it? Not, I'll get somebody else to do that. What are you going to do? Noah was faithful and righteous. And he was honoured in that. It cost him. It cost him the society that he lived in. I could count on one hand the times in my life when people have said to me, I want what you've got. Whatever you're on, I'm wanting some of that. Only a few times. But really that's what we're aiming to get at. Are we living lives that are so different, or counterculture if you like, that it causes people to wonder about us? What is it about these people that meet in this place here? And what's different about them? Jesus said, how will the world know that you're my disciples? If you love one another. And that is the crux of it. If you take a bunch of people like this and you can demonstrate that you love one another by the way that you serve yourselves here in the church and you serve the community, then people will notice and they'll start asking questions. What is it about them? There's something different about them, and I want to know what it is. Noah was a righteous man. He lived in relationship with God. He heard from him and he acted on what he heard from his father. And the challenge for us is, do our lives invite enough intrigue from people to ask why we might be living differently? And do we stick out from the crowd? And that's a challenge for all of us. Secondly, in this passage, we look at the day of the Lord. Next slide, Alan. The day of the Lord will arise suddenly, at a time we will never be able to guess, though many people try to do it. You'll have seen, if you watch American evangelical programs will be telling you when Jesus is coming back, and most of the time, and all of the time, getting it wrong. And when that day happens, it will affect everybody, regardless of belief, interests, convictions, and anything else. And the background to this passage, as I said before, is the disciples are being told by Jesus that the temple, the magnificent building at the centre of Jerusalem, which symbolised God's presence with them, would be completely destroyed. The disciples were with Jesus. They were saying, oh, look at the temple, isn't it a marvellous, wonderful building? A bit like this, really. And he said, well, the day is coming when the whole thing's going to be levelled, razed to the ground, and it's going to disappear. And all the religious activity that was based in it is gone, because I am replacing it. And this happened in 70 AD. The invading army would carry off the prisoners to be killed as slaves, and the remainder were left to manage the land and the assets on the conqueror's behalf. And you compare that with books that have been written called Left Behind. You heard of that? Jesus has come back, he's taken all the Christians away, and he's left everybody just to get on with it. That's what this passage is talking about. It's talking about the Roman army coming and taking usually the people that were of some use and the troublemakers away, kill the troublemakers, use them, and leave the plebs and those that are not very much use to get on with that, because it's easier to rule that way. So it's not a case of one being taken off to heaven someplace and one left behind. It's in the context of the destruction of the temple. And it's a cataclysmic event which changes everything forever. And linked to that, if you can make the jump, the coming of Jesus as a child heralds the inbreaking of God's kingdom. From time immemorial, if I can use that word, God has had a plan to rescue his people and his creation. And it began when Jesus came as a child. The kingdom was near. The shepherds glimpsed the glory of heaven as Jesus demonstrated the kingdom in his coming, in his life and his ministry. And he calls the church to carry on that work. And we are called to command the kingdom to come. We said the Lord's Prayer this morning. How easily it trips off the lips. Our Father, who art in heaven. What does art mean? Today it should be who is in heaven. We keep using language that doesn't fit our culture. But the bit we talked about, when it talks about God's name, God's kingdom and God's will, in the Greek, which the New Testament is written in, these are commands. So what it should say is, your name, let it be hallowed. Your kingdom, let it come, as in heaven, so on earth. Your will, let it be done. It's not a wishy-washy wish list. What Jesus is saying here is, command it to come. It's coming anyway. And it gives a whole different flavour to the prayer itself. We live in the already, but the not yet of the kingdom. We're in between the times. Jesus has come and brought the kingdom with him. The event has begun. And we are called to carry on that work that Jesus left us to do. And every good deed, every healing, every convert, every kindness in God's name demonstrates the nearness of the kingdom, even if it doesn't feel like it. We can gather as a small group of people in the middle of a housing estate. We think, what are we doing here? We're not making any effect on anything. Oh yes, you are. Because there are not only things going on down here, there's also things going on in heaven. And what we need to get here is that heaven isn't up there. The first guy into space, a Russian chap, can't remember what his name is, he said, I'm in space and God's not here. Because he missed it. Heaven isn't in space and time, that's us. Heaven is just there. It's like that there's almost like a thin curtain, and if you pull it back, and sometimes that happens in life, you get a glimpse of something that's, wow, that's heaven, and it's all around us. We just don't see it. It's not up here. Better watch what I'm saying. But the kingdom is near. It's as near as that. And Jesus talked about the kingdom being like yeast. I used to make wine when I was younger. Christians making wine, absolutely shocking. So you would get fruit or stuff from bushes and stuff around about, mush it all up, load in the sugar, and then you put yeast in it, little brown particles of stuff. You throw that in, you put in a big glass jug with a, can't remember what you call it.
Cork.
What?
Put in the breather.
Aye. It's a cork with a glass tube in it, so they could breathe. Because what happens is the yeast starts to work. And initially you don't see anything. It just looks like, if it's black or something, big red liquid, halfway up the demi-john, and it doesn't do anything. Sometimes, if you put too much yeast in it, or too much sugar in it, it actually blows out the top and ruins your kitchen wallpaper, which I did a few times, because the ferment is so much. But we are called to live in anticipation of that final fulfillment when heaven comes to earth. See, you get it the wrong way around. We think we're dying and going to heaven. A wee aside here. See, preachers, don't just take what they say as read. Go and examine it for yourself. Go and read round about it. You've got all the access on the internet now. You can research these things for yourself. Just because Jim Neilson for Leslie said something doesn't need to be right, and you don't have to agree with it. And that's important, that you find these things out for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. I could be telling you loads of rubbish. And I might be wrong, I'm aware of that. But we're not so much going to heaven when we die, although that is partially true, because when we die we will go to paradise, but we are awaiting the resurrection when Jesus brings heaven to earth and the whole thing gets changed in us with it. So just a different way of thinking about things. We proclaim Christ as a baby at Christmas, but we also proclaim him as crucified Saviour who has promised to return and reconcile all things to himself. The future is bright. It's not orange, but it is bright. And are we living lives, again here's the challenge, are we living lives that reflect that? We get caught up, we can get so caught up in the way that we feel, or we're not doing very much, or nothing's happening. Yes, it is. You just don't see it. It's like the yeast, the ferment, it's going on. And one of these days it'll blow at the top of the jar, and we'll be part of that. That's something to rejoice in. And so lastly, we want to look at how can Advent be every day? Well, no, not Christmas every day. How then ought we to live? Jesus exhorts us to keep watch, to be ready, and to work. In 2 Peter says, since everything will be destroyed in this way, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. The danger is in the night and in the dark. The Jews divided the night into 3 watches, sunset to 10 o'clock to 2 a.m., 2 a.m. to sunrise, where the Romans had 4. And the watchman, which you'll have heard of if you've read anything in the Old Testament, was alert during these times for the protection of the city or the property. And Jesus talks about that, if the owner of the house had known when the thief was coming, he'd have made sure the doors were locked and the windows were secure. But this is is a prophetic thing in the Old Testament. The prophet keeps watch over the nation, warning against straying from God and encouraging people to keep the faith. And Jesus warns us against the thief in the night. In John chapter 10 he says, the thief comes only to steal, to kill and to destroy. There is opposition, and our fight is not against flesh and blood, it's against the principalities and the powers in the heavenly realms. There's all sorts of things going on in the heavenly realms that you can't see, but they're against you. They do not want you to succeed. They want to make you feel like you're not doing anything, that you're rubbish and all that sort of thing, and it's all a lie. What is it that steals our joy, our faith, our assurance, our perseverance? What are the things in our society which are doing that right now for people? We are, as the church, the watchmen for our peers, for our world. Our lives, our words, our actions ought to point them to the reality which is God. Even in the context of the culture that we live in, where God has been shoved away to the side. The incarnation is what we celebrate at Christmas. God working through a man to bring his kingdom. And we are called to do the same, so that every day is Advent. Here is your God, is what the prophet proclaimed in Isaiah. And that is what our life should communicate people. Here is your God. Look at my life. And that's a big challenge. You know, look at the way I live. Look at what I do. Look at what I say. And see something of God in that. Challenge people to do that. In 2 Timothy, Paul says, be prepared in season and out of season. All the time, in other words. Correct, rebuke and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. For the time will come when men will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to say. That, folks, is the world in which we live. People hear what they want to hear. And our society and our culture has lost the meaning of servanthood, which is the end part of this passage here. God's kingdom has broken in from the future into our present world. And we, as post-resurrection Christians, are expected to carry on the work, looking to the fulfillment of all that was promised in Jesus' resurrection. The Greek word for servant is doulos. And you might have heard that before. A slave. We don't have any idea what slaves are. I don't have a slave. But I'm not going to say anything about my life. And we don't live in a culture that has slaves that we're necessarily aware of, although it does go on. But a slave, in the context that Jesus is talking about here, a slave belonged not by nature to himself, but to someone else. The life of the slave was one of unrelieved, compulsory labour and service. We didn't get that. Here's a wee parable story that Jesus told to Luke. Suppose one of you had a servant, and the word there is doulos, ploughing or looking after sheep. Would he say to the servant when he comes in from the field, come along now and sit down to eat? Would he not rather say, prepare my supper, get yourself ready, and wait on me while I eat and drink? After that, you can eat and drink. Would he thank the servant because he did what he was told to do? So you also, when you have done everything you were told to do, should say, we are unworthy servants. We have only done our duty. Now, we didn't like that, do we? We don't want to be servants because it's too difficult. In serving the church, in serving the community, which we are called to do, sometimes we will be acknowledged for that. Sometimes we will be thanked for that. Some folk will say, well done, you've done a good job there. But a lot of the time, you'll get misunderstood, misrepresented, maybe even abused and mistreated because you're a servant. And that's where we're at. Are we willing to give of ourselves in church and in our community, regardless of what it is, whether it's ringing a bell at the end of a line, which you weren't expecting to be doing on a Sunday morning, to help somebody out. It's probably a rubbish illustration of that. We're called to work, to do something, not just to sit on our backsides and be entertained. We are vessels through which God appears in the moment as we practice His presence in our lives. One of the awesome things that I don't have the words to communicate to you, I often come back to this in preaching, is that God lives within us as believers by His Spirit. The awesome creator of the whole cosmos, the power, the mightiness, the glory, lives in earthen vessels like us. You have access to all of that. And therefore, our lives should reflect that in this season of Advent, of thinking about Christ coming. How are our lives going to reflect that hope? So today, we can be the channel of God's presence into the lives of those around us. Will we be righteous like Noah and keep relationship with God? What is God saying to us? What is God saying to you? And what are we going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this season of Advent when we think about your coming as a child. And yet we want to remember too that you grew up to be a man. That you took our punishment and our sin and all the rubbish of the world upon yourself, and you dealt with it. And you introduced the kingdom of God back into creation. And Lord, you call us as your people, Lord, to reflect that in our lives. Lord, help us in our weakness. Lord, as we relate to people in church and in our community, Lord, help us to reflect something of your beauty and your glory into their lives. Lord, not for our sakes, but that, Lord, we would be seen as servants that we are, doing our duty, looking forward to the day when the whole thing will be turned around completely, and the surprise and the joy of eternal life will be ours. So, Lord, we give you ourselves as a church here. We ask, Lord, that you would pour out your Spirit upon us. Envision us and enable us, Lord, to serve you as we serve one another and as we serve our community. For we ask it in the name of Jesus.